they didn't come back for like a whole day, which is so crazy for my mom because like my mom's sorry business phone, but my mom's always like on top of us. So for my mom to not come home, I knew something had happened, you know, and then it's kind of like politics, you know, like very secretive. They didn't want to tell us what was going on until like 7 days later he passed away, and then I got the phone call, which I've always gotten the phone call. Like shortly after that, my grandma passed, and the same thing. Like the phone rings at 6 a.m. and I already had this weird feeling, and I already kind of knew. Same thing with September 11th. Yeah. Same thing. Like I was watching TV and I had this eerie feeling, and then I changed channels, and all of a sudden the tower's going down. It's like this weird sixth sense that you get. Yeah, like I don't know what it is, but you know, it happens.
But you know, so I asked you to talk about that because I actually talked to your mom a little bit about that when I saw her this last weekend.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, in her own words, you know, she was, first of all, she's your biggest cheerleader, right? And she just couldn't stop talking about all the stuff that you're doing. It's like, man, she's like, you know, she knows more about your business than most people probably think. I mean, she's involved, right? She's involved.
Yeah.
And this is what she says. She goes, you know, after taking you guys out of that neighborhood and looking for a better, you know, a better place for you guys to grow, and you know, she says, I que seguir viviendo. After your dad passed, you know, you guys managed to continue living, and you know, and accomplish all that you've accomplished,
right,
and find happiness, which I think a lot of people in our neighborhoods and just in regular life in general, they come across something, a little bump in the road. This is obviously bigger than a bump in the road, but they can't get over it. So I gotta ask, how did you guys come over with that? I mean, your mom obviously is a special woman in that sense.
I learned everything from my father at first through life. My dad had crazy work ethic too. He moved here from South America, and like, you know, my dad comes from a pretty well-off family, but he squandered his whole inheritance, you know. And one thing I found out, like this is actually like probably 2 weeks ago, I met a server here down the street at a French restaurant, and he told me, he's like, man, your mom is a very amazing woman. Like I can tell she has like a lot of like, you know, garra, which means like, you know, desire, or not desire, more like, you know, vigor, claw, like, you know, guts and everything, you know. And he's like, I used to be a womanizer, and he's like, and I was like, dude, my dad was too. He's like, and I don't drink, and I was like, my dad didn't either. It's like this one underlying thing when your guy is very into like womanizing, that's his focus, you know. I know a few people in my life that are the same way, and with that, my dad squandered his whole inheritance, traveling the world and, you know, being with women and whatever. So when he met my mom, he had to humble down. He had nothing to offer her. He's like, hey, look, the only thing I have to offer is a plane ticket to America, and I could change our life. And he came here and started with nothing. And my dad started, which, you know, at the time I was very embarrassed of, and I didn't want to tell people, but my dad would go to like areas and he would recycle the cardboard. And he had this old beat up truck, and he would recycle cardboard, but he made pretty good money doing it. And my dad was like, at this point, you know, obviously had to spend money, so now he knew how to save it. So he would put it all away. And the most ironic part in life is that one of my first memories was, I think I was about 5 or 6, and I was in my dad's truck. And my dad had a stick, because everybody in South America, they drive stick shift. My dad was kind of like an airhead, kind of like my brother. And he would leave the truck in neutral with me in it. And the car would sometimes go down hills, and it would hit things.
Wow.
And that was my memories. Like, and that's why I think I have a control problem, is because I remember my first memories are being out of control. Like my nightmares, and I remember them vividly, were going down a hill with no brakes, and like crashing into something and dying. So ever since then, I've always had control. The next thing I learned was that, you know, some people's trash is another person's treasure. And my dad would basically recycle the cardboard and the cans, but he would find all these things that the wealthy would throw away.
Wow.
And he would tell my mom, like, oh my God, these people, they're so, you know, they're frivolous. They just throw anything away because they get something new. And he would come to this area, and I remember driving through these alleys, and I remember seeing all these affluent people, and like, and I could tell that they were different from me. They were like Jewish, you know, Orthodox Jews and stuff like that. And I was like, man, this is so crazy. You know where that was?
Where?
Melrose.
And
you know here. Where it dead end? My dad would go through all the alleys, and it would dead end at this place, and he would always turn left. And that's on Fairfax.
Wow.
Which is literally diagonally across the street from us. Fairfax High is where my dad would end. So all these businesses.
You recognize all these this neighborhood.
I go and shop at Sammy's Camera, where my dad would get the majority of cardboard from Sammy's Camera. All this camera equipment I bought at Sammy's. And the store is on Melrose, where my dad grew up, like picking the trash from people. So now when people come and take my trash, I make sure my trash is neat and organized,
Right.
so they can collect the cardboard, they can collect the cans, and they can make their living,
Mhm.
and they help me out because it's less bundle of trash that
Right.
I have to take care of.
That's awesome.
So it kind of like life comes full circle, and it's funny because like, now I'm in a position where I can help others, and I just remember those business owners were like very like like they look down on Hispanics and they look down on people that work hard,
Right.
and they're just kind of like, well, I'm smarter than you and I can make more money, and like
Right.
I'll never let my kids know someday that like if we are of influence or of affluence, they're never gonna know. I'm gonna hide that from them because I don't want them to have to like. To me, that's a handicap in life. When you're born into money and you're born into this bubble, you don't know what the real world is like.
I've never suffered. Yeah.
So when you leave a few blocks from here and you go to like, because the hood is not that far from here. You know what I mean? You go up Crenshaw, and it's another funny thing with my friends. I'm like, south side of this street, it's rodeo.
Mm-hmm.
On this side, it's rodeo. And it's like, no, you go that way on rodeo and they're going
Right.
to bust a cap in your ass.
Right.
Out here, everything's bougie. And that's what's funny about like kids talking crap on the internet. Like I have to catch myself because like they don't know where I'm from.
Right,
like,
right. It's hard. It's hard to hold back. Yeah, I mean.
And I have to like bite my tongue, and I'm like, oh no, and then they call me, a pussy or something like that. Like I don't know what kind of language, but they call me names, and then I'm just kind of like, dude, you're lucky that I've controlled myself, but I will literally.
But see, that's the other thing. I think, you've always had this set of abilities. Like I was talking to you about this earlier. The abilities, athletic. You were a scholar athlete. Like I never remember you having problems with grades or getting put on probation. So the fact that you were on the DC tour, and I remember you typing up assignments, taking tests online, taking care of your college classes. But see, here's what I'm trying to get at. You also had these, because most people have abilities, but they don't have these qualities that match these abilities. And these qualities come from your parents, obviously.
Right.
Hardworking, generous, a genuinely nice guy, which I immediately get that from both your parents. You benefited from both of them. So these qualities, you said that you had to grow up real quick, since you were 13. How did you develop this quality these qualities that matched your abilities that got you here?
Jack of all trades, master of none. Like I'm a firm believer that, like I learned because there was this kid in kindergarten. His name was Anthony. I forget if it was Salazar or Rodriguez. Anthony Rodriguez, maybe. He was a straight A student. Had straight A's. Every grade had straight A's, and then he was like the most decorated kid. But in the first grade, somehow I got straight A's, and I took that from him. But then he got straight A's second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh. But it didn't matter to me because I was like, I beat you once. That's all I needed.
Right.
And I'm the same way about things. Like my friends are way better BMX riders than me. But every once in a while, I'll do a trick or I'll do something that they'll never be able to do, and that's enough for me. And I'm about that with everything. It's like, okay, you might be the best at bike riding, but now I'm better at you as a student. Then I go to school and there's a better student than me, and I'm like, okay, you're a better student, but I'm gonna network better than you. And to me, it's not about being competitive in a bad nature. To me, it's like, you always want to achieve more by setting the standard higher by your peers. And if you have friends that are way better than you, you never want to be the best in the room. You always want to be the worst. Because if you're the worst in the room, that sets up your standard a lot higher.
Right.
So when you go to another room, they don't know you. And all of a sudden, let's say, Taekwondo, like you're with all these black belts and they're kicking your butt every day. But then you go with all these brown belts and you kick the crap out of them and you're a white belt, but because you're hanging out with these elevated people. And that's how I've always been. It's like, well, again, even like this camera equipment, my friends are amazing videographers. But every once in a while, I learn something that they don't know, and then they're like, how'd you do that? And I'm like, well, I applied a skill set from something else and transferred it here. So I think the common denominator with all of that is just like my willingness to sacrifice myself. I will literally do something for 25 hours, 28 hours in a row until I get it. I have no problem. I will not sleep. I will literally out hustle you every step along the way because I just know how to sacrifice, because I have the ultimate sacrifice. I gave my life a long time ago to whatever it was that I decided was going to be my life. I was like, this is it. Fully, I'm diving in. Other people get lost in the partying, in the whatever it is, like this facade. They get caught up in their own facade. Sometimes like they're literally, they can't smell like their own, fart or whatever it is, and I think with that comes like, learning from other communities, learning from other disciplines, and applying those different disciplines to the other one. And my best example is my BMX homies. they would ride whenever they wanted and like, you know, figure it out. I came from sports where it was like very strict.
Right.
I went to Verbum, a Catholic high school with like 99% African American students. Me, one other white guy, and then maybe 10 Mexican kids.
Right. That's the same.
And
when
all I
went there.
learned,
That's exactly.
and all I learned was how to be good at, you know, playing every single sport, how to be good at talking to girls, and how to get straight A's, because I got straight A's when I went to Verbum Day. And it was because my focus was hyper focused. It was like, okay, go to class, they're gonna tell jokes, I'm gonna learn algebra. We're gonna get out of class, I'm gonna tell jokes, and I'm gonna show them about BMX, and then we're gonna tackle somebody. And they used to call me psycho.
Right.
They're like, you're crazy, because I was like this little tiny kid, and I would go heads up with a linebacker. I didn't care. I was like, you're not gonna kill me. It's gonna hurt. I remember one time I got leveled so bad. Oh my God, he literally ran me over, and I was just like, maybe this isn't for me, you know?
Right.
And then looking back, I got popped playing flag football on concrete, broke my wrist. Well, I didn't even break it. I kind of like had a hairline fracture.
Right.
Dude, to this day, my wrist still hurts because I never took care of it. Yeah.
That was probably our fault. We were probably
Playing tackle football on concrete, not the craziest of ideas,
Right.
or not the best of ideas.
But let me just say, I think that's a quality right there that stands out. All right. So, fearlessness. You know, riding BMX, especially, you know, street BMX, you know, hitting gaps, riding those rails. I mean, I see the potential for danger every time. You risk, you know, life and limb when you do some of this stuff.
Right.
That fearlessness, and especially, you know, the athletic ability, I feel that somehow that transferred over to what you're doing now. You're fearless when it comes to, like, you know, finding new ventures, opening up a store, you know, and setting it up, like, I don't know, you know, in a short period of time, you know, finding a solution, problem solving, you know, all these things that, as an educator, right, we try to instill in kids. But for some reason, life is the only experience, I mean, the only way that they can go ahead and apply those. So I don't know. Am I close to kind of describing what you've done?
So when I ride BMX, I literally shut my brain off. I'm like, because, you know, I have a very intuitive, you know, like problem solving approach to things, and then I look at it BMX and I'm like, why am I putting myself at this risk? But then that's what drives that stuff. So I have to shut off that part. I'm like, yeah, I'm probably gonna get broke off. But then you have blind confidence. You're like, you know what? I can do this.
Blind confidence. I like that.
Yeah, because it's like, to be honest, half the time I'm sending myself down. It could be it's a plethora of different obstacles, like in traffic, the security guard's coming. There's a crack right in front of where I'm going to jump from. The rail could break when I land on it. It's a bunch of different things, but you have this hyper focus. And there's a video on this channel. It's a series called Epically Later, and they talk about the madness. And for us, the madness means that a lot of us have a weird tick or a OCD thing that we do before we do a trick. Some people tap on a wall 3 times.
Really? What's yours?
I do a clockwise circle.
Okay.
And then I do the clockwise circle, and I look at the photographer or the videographer or both, and I'm like, "Are you ready? Are you ready?" And then I do that, and I might do that for an hour straight. I'm like,
it's like in golf when they set up their shot. Or
and what I learned about that is that what it does is it heightens your sense of awareness because it makes you hyper focus on everything. At that moment, the world stays still, everything is quiet, and when I'm gonna do that trick, everything goes in slow motion, and I can literally jump in midair and adjust at any point. And then I do the trick, and then life comes to full speed again. And if I'm gonna land it, I already know when it's gonna happen. I have this weird feeling that I'm gonna land it. Or 99% of the time when I'm not landing it, I'm like, okay, I have this hyper sense of how I'm gonna bail, how I'm gonna get out of this accident. And to be honest, during that moment, it's like you feel like Superman, you're like invincible. And when you do get hurt, it's when you're not hyper focused. It's a small distraction, you're goofing around with your friends, you're doing that,
you
stuff
lose
like that.
concentration.
Right.
Yeah. You get out of that zone. Sounds like you're in a zone.
Or you have a little bit of hesitation. And that's one thing that in life you cannot have. When driving a car and you're gonna switch lanes, you can't hesitate. You have to know when you're gonna switch and switch. When you're gonna talk to a girl, you can't go up to her and stutter. You know, you blow it right then and there. When you're gonna make a business move, you can't just like half-heartedly get into something and be like, oh, I'm gonna invest in this. And then you're gonna be like, oh no. As soon as you do that, somebody beats you to the punch. So having that confidence and being like, you know what, I'm doing this and that's it. And that's how BMX works, that's how business works, that's how life works. But a lot of people will always have this doubt. So sometimes it actually helps to create like a facade. Like when you ride bikes, you're Alf, you're a different guy. Then Alfredo, the business guy. Then Fredo, the guy that hangs out with his homies or whatever it is. You know what I mean? Like I have like these different hats, and when I wear a different hat, I turn into a different person. When I'm in front of a camera, it's like I don't change because like my personality is the same. Like
Mhm.
when you meet me, I'm the same in my video than I am. Maybe a little more energetic or something,
Right.
but I'm still the same person. I'm not fake. But you have to be able to adapt to these different climates, and